What's keeping you away from arriving at your maximum capacity? Absence of expertise or absence of poise? Your fantasies don't fizzle since you need ability or chances. They fizzle since pardons have their spot. Self-control is the power that hushes those reasons and transforms potential into power. In this book recording, you'll figure out how self-control isn't about penance. It's tied in with picking the main thing and finishing what has been started when interruptions emerge. At the point when you ace it, nothing, not tarrying, not dread, not question, can hinder you. Self-control is the expert key to opening your maximum capacity. Prepared to assume responsibility for your life? How about we begin? Part 1. What is self-restraint? Self-restraint is the capacity to keep fixed on your objectives and settle on decisions that line up with your drawn-out vision, in any event, when it's awkward or badly designed. It's the main impetus behind progress, assisting you with doing what should be finished, as opposed to what's simple or enticing at the time. Self-control isn't something you're brought into the world with. It's an expertise you work over the long run through reliable exertion. It resembles a muscle. The more you practice it, the more grounded it becomes. Whether it's adhering to a gym routine daily schedule, opposing interruptions, or getting done with a difficult responsibility, self-restraint transforms goals into results. Many individuals see self-restraint as prohibitive, yet it's really freeing. It gives you command over your activities and choices, permitting you to live purposefully instead of responsively. Rather than being administered by transitory feelings or outside pressures, you assume responsibility for your life. This feeling of control makes opportunity, the opportunity to seek after significant objectives, get out from under persistent vices, and plan the future you need. There's actually no need to focus on being brutal on yourself. It's tied in with tracking down balance and remaining focused on the main thing. Self-restraint additionally assembles certainty. Each time you keep a word to yourself, you demonstrate to yourself that you're competent. These little wins, deciding to remain steady with a propensity or defeating a snapshot of sluggishness, support your confidence and build up your faith in your capacity to succeed. Over the long run, self-control turns into an instrument that enables you to accomplish your maximum capacity. There's actually no need to focus on flawlessness. It's about progress, each choice in turn. Part 2. Breaking the pattern of stalling. Dawdling is one of the greatest hindrances to self-control and achievement. It's the propensity for postponing significant errands, frequently for simpler, more agreeable exercises. Breaking this cycle begins with understanding the reason why it works out. Delaying isn't just about lethargy. It's frequently attached to fear, self-uncertainty, or feeling overpowered. We could put things off in light of the fact that we're apprehensive about falling flat, uncertain of where to begin, or just looking for the solace of interruption. To break free, you really want to recognize the main driver of your stalling and face it head-on. One strong method for combating stalling is by taking little, reasonable advances. At the point when an undertaking feels overpowering, separate it into more modest activities. For example, rather than saying, "I want to compose a report," begin with, "I'll frame the primary concerns." When you start, energy constructs, and the assignment turns out to be less scary. Another compelling methodology is to set explicit cutoff times. Giving yourself a reasonable time span makes desperation and assists you with remaining on track. Indeed, even self-inflicted cutoff times can make the construction expected to keep you pushing ahead. Dispensing with interruptions and it are likewise key to establish a useful climate. Delaying frequently flourishes when we're encircled by things that pull our consideration away, web-based entertainment, warnings, or even a jumbled work area. By eliminating these interruptions, you make it simpler to center. Furthermore, practice self-sympathy. Be caring to yourself when you goof and hesitate. Recognize the mishap, yet don't harp on it. All things considered, pull together and make the following little stride. Breaking the pattern of lingering is a steady cycle, however with reliable exertion, it's a propensity you can supplant with activity and progress. Part 3 Structure propensities that stick. Propensities are the groundwork of self-restraint. They are the little, rehashed activities that shape our regular routines and decide long-haul achievement. Building propensities that stick starts with clearness. You really want to know precisely very thing propensity you need to create and why it makes a difference. An obscure objective like get better isn't sufficient. All things being equal, indicate what you'll do. I'll practice for 30 minutes each day. The more exact you are, the simpler it is to remain predictable and measure your advancement. Beginning little is vital to propensity arrangement. Many individuals neglect to stay with new propensities since they attempt to change excessively quick. On the off chance that you want to understand more, start with only 5 minutes every day. When that becomes standard, you can progressively expand the time. This methodology, frequently called the 2-minute rule, assists you with defeating the underlying obstruction and gather speed. Little activities, rehashed reliably, make serious areas of strength for enduring propensities. Another viable procedure is to attach your new propensity to a current daily schedule, a method known as propensity stacking. For instance, assuming you as of now clean your teeth each day, add your new propensity right subsequently. This association with something recognizable assists you with making sure to get it done and causes the propensity to feel like a characteristic piece of your day. Over the long run, this little matching becomes programmed and your new propensity becomes as imbued as your current daily schedule. Consistency is a higher priority than flawlessness. It's normal to have days when you goof, yet the key isn't allowing those slips to crash your advancement. On the off chance that you miss a day, don't miss two. Hop back in as quickly as time permits and advise yourself that each little exertion counts. Following your propensities, whether in a diary, application, or schedule, can likewise keep you responsible and assist you with envisioning your consistency, which supports your inspiration. Making awards for staying with your propensities can make the interaction more charming. These prizes don't need to be extreme, they simply have to give you something to anticipate. For instance, subsequent to finishing 7 days of steady exercise routines, indulge yourself with a most loved action or guilty pleasure. Over the long run, the actual propensity will turn into its own prize as you see and feel the advantages of your endeavors. At last, center around your personality as opposed to only the actual propensity. Rather than saying, I need to run consistently, tell yourself, I'm a sprinter. Moving your outlook to line up with the individual you need to become supports your obligation to the propensity. At the point when your activities line up with your character, adhering to your propensities feels normal and easy. Building propensities that stick isn't about intense changes for the time being. It's about little, purposeful activities that lead to enduring change. Section 4. Defeating profound hindrances. Close to home boundaries are probably the most provoking snags to self-control. They frequently come from dread, uncertainty, and previous encounters that leave us reluctant to act. To beat these obstructions, we should initially recognize their reality. Denying or smothering your feelings doesn't dispense with them. It just intensifies their command over your activities. The initial step to beating close-to-home obstructions is to confront them with genuineness and interest. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? For what reason does this feeling keep me down? Understanding your feelings is the underpinning of breaking liberated from their hold. Dread is perhaps of the most well-known close-to-home hindrance, frequently appearing as dread of disappointment or apprehension about judgment. These apprehensions can incapacitate you, preventing you from facing challenges or venturing outside your usual range of familiarity. The way to defeating dread is to re-examine it as a chance for development. Rather than seeing disappointment as an impasse, view it as a venturing stone toward progress. Embrace the possibility that each endeavor, fruitful or not, shows you something important. At the point when dread turns into an inspiration as opposed to a limiter, your self-control reinforces. Another close-to-home obstruction is self-question, the internal voice that murmurs, "You're not adequate," or "You can't do this." Self-question frequently emerges from correlation, past disappointments, or unreasonable assumptions. To battle it, center around your advancement and celebrate little wins. Supplant negative self-talk with attestations that help you to remember your capacities. For instance, rather than saying, "I won't ever get this right," say, "I'm learning and working on each day." Reliably testing self-uncertainty with encouraging feedback fabricates certainty and assists you with remaining restrained. Stalling is in many cases established in close-to-home uneasiness. You might postpone undertakings since they feel overpowering or on the grounds that you dread the result. Conquering this boundary requires breaking assignments into more modest, reasonable advances. At the point when the responsibility feels reachable, venturing out is more straightforward. Furthermore, practice care to address the close-to-home opposition behind lingering. Ask yourself, for what reason am I staying away from this? What feeling am I attempting to get away? By facing the main driver, you can handle tarrying all the more successfully. Culpability and disgrace can likewise go about as critical close-to-home hindrances. Previous mishaps or disappointments frequently weight, causing you to feel undeserving of achievement or progress. To beat these sentiments, practice self-pardoning. Advise yourself that everybody has their faults and that your past doesn't characterize your future. Gain from what turned out badly, yet don't allow it to direct your present. Self-pardoning liberates you from the heaviness of culpability, permitting you to push ahead with an unmistakable and centered mind. Hairsplitting is another personal hindrance that obstructs self-restraint. The craving to do all that faultlessly can prompt loss of motion, where you keep away from assignments by and large because of a paranoid fear of missing the mark. Beating compulsiveness includes embracing blemish as a characteristic piece of the interaction. Permit yourself to make flawed moves, realizing that progress matters more than flawlessness. Praise the work you put in, regardless of whether the result isn't perfect. At the point when you let go of hairsplitting, you make space for reliable exertion and development. Close-to-home depletion and burnout can likewise attack self-control. At the point when you're sincerely depleted, it's hard to remain persuaded or centered. To address this hindrance, focus on taking care of oneself and close-to-home prosperity. Integrate exercises that re-energize you, like activity, contemplation, or investing energy with friends and family. Building self-control doesn't mean driving yourself to the mark of weariness. It implies making a manageable equilibrium that upholds long-haul achievement. Outer impacts can add to profound obstructions too. Negative conditions or connections might sow seeds of uncertainty or demoralization. Beating these obstructions requires defining limits and encircling yourself with energy. Search out people who elevate and motivate you, and limit openness to the individuals who channel your energy. Your close-to-home climate assumes a huge part in your capacity to remain trained, so curate it with care. Feeling of dread toward progress is a more subtle yet similarly strong profound obstruction. Accomplishing your objectives might accompany worries about expanded liability, better standards, or change. To beat this apprehension, center around the advantages of accomplishment and remind yourself why you began. Imagine the positive effect of your accomplishments and how they line up with your qualities. By zeroing in on the prizes as opposed to the feelings of trepidation, you can push ahead with certainty. Building profound strength is fundamental for beating hindrances. Life will unavoidably introduce difficulties that test your self-restraint, yet versatility permits you to return more grounded. Foster procedures to adapt to mishaps, for example, journaling, conversing with a confided-in companion, or rehearsing care. Flexibility doesn't mean keeping away from challenges, it implies figuring out how to explore them with strength and versatility. Creating profound mindfulness is an expertise that develops with training. Focus on your triggers and examples and figure out how to deal with your feelings progressively. At the point when you feel overpowered or deterred, respite and take a full breath. Ask yourself, what am I feeling and how might I answer such that upholds my objectives? This mindfulness assists you with acting deliberately as opposed to responsively, keeping you lined up with your discipline. Ultimately, recollect that conquering profound hindrances is an excursion, not an objective. Progress might be delayed on occasion, and that is completely fine. Praise each forward-moving step, regardless of how little, and show restraint toward yourself as you explore your feelings. Self-restraint isn't tied in with stifling your sentiments, it's tied in with figuring out how to function with them such that upholds your development. With time and practice, you'll foster the close-to-home solidarity to defeat any obstruction and remain focused on your objectives. Section 5. The force of saying no. The word no is perhaps of the most useful asset you have for safeguarding your time, energy, and concentration. However, many individuals battle with saying it, whether it's because of dread of disheartening others, a longing to stay away from struggle, or a feeling of responsibility. Saying okay over and over again can deplete your assets and crash your advancement. Becoming the best at saying no isn't just about turning down demands, it's tied in with recovering command over your life and focusing on the main thing. Saying no permits you to define limits. Without clear limits, you risk overcommitting and extending yourself excessively far. At the point when you take on something over the top, your energy is drained and your capacity to perform at your best reduces. Limits are fundamental for keeping up with balance and guaranteeing that your time is spent on exercises that line up with your objectives and values. Saying no is an approach to safeguarding those limits. Many individuals partner expressing no with childishness, yet the inverse is much of the time valid. By expressing no to things that don't serve you, you're really making space to do everything you possibly can for the responsibilities that make the biggest difference. For instance, turning down a superfluous gathering could save time to deal with a task that has a huge effect. Saying no decisively permits you to concentrate your endeavors where they count. Saying no is likewise a demonstration of self-esteem. It shows that you esteem your significant investment enough to safeguard them from pointless requests. At the point when you continually express yes to every other person's needs, you risk dismissing your own. Self-confidence includes perceiving your own requirements and not having a blameworthy outlook on focusing on them. Each time you express no to something irrelevant, you're expressing yes to yourself. Perhaps of the greatest test in saying no is beating the feeling of dread toward dismissal or struggle. Many individuals stress that turning somebody down will harm connections or cause them to seem cruel. Be that as it may, a deferential and legit no frequently gains more appreciation than a tricky yes. Individuals value legitimacy, and expressing no with thoughtfulness and lucidity can reinforce your connections by laying out clear correspondence and common comprehension. Figuring out how to say no likewise requires perceiving your own impediments. You can't do all, and that is well. Recognizing your cutoff points doesn't make you frail. It makes you wise. By saying no when your plate is full, you shield yourself from burnout and guarantee that the responsibilities you in all actuality do take on accept your undivided focus. Keep in mind, quality is many times more significant than amount. Saying no doesn't mean you need to be brutal or sudden. There are numerous ways of declining a solicitation respectfully while keeping up with your connections. For instance, you can say, "I value you considering me, however I can't focus on that at this moment." Another methodology is to offer an option, for example, "I can't assist with that, however maybe another person could possibly help." These reactions show thought while as yet regarding your limits. The capacity to say no is intently attached to self-restraint. It requires the discipline to oppose prompt delight or the desire to satisfy others for your drawn-out objectives. Each time you express no to an interruption, you're supporting your obligation to the main thing. After some time, this discipline turns into a propensity that reinforces your concentration and efficiency. Saying no is particularly significant with regards to using time productively. Time is a limited asset, and how you spend it decides the nature of your life. At the point when you express yes to a certain something, you're innately expressing no to something different. Being deliberate about your yes and no choices guarantees that your time is put resources into exercises that line up with your needs. Embracing the force of no likewise decreases pressure. Overcommitting frequently prompts a consistent condition of overpower where you're shuffling such a large number of liabilities and battling to keep up. Saying no makes space to breathe, permitting you to zero in on a sensible number of errands. This works on your exhibition, yet in addition improves your general prosperity. It's critical to perceive that idiom no is certainly not a one-time choice, however a continuous practice. As new open doors, demands, and difficulties emerge, you'll have to constantly assess whether they line up with your objectives and values. This requires mindfulness and the capacity to stop and reflect prior to answering. Saying no insightfully guarantees that your choices are intentional as opposed to responsive. Saying no can likewise act as a type of strengthening. It advises you that you are in charge of your decisions and that you reserve the privilege to significantly impact your own life. At the point when you express no to things that don't line up with your motivation, you're confirming your obligation to your own vision. This feeling of strengthening fortifies your certainty and lucidity, making it simpler to remain consistent with your objectives. Rehearsing the force of no frequently includes forgetting cultural molding. Many societies empower individuals, particularly ladies, to focus on others' requirements over their own. This can prompt culpability or inconvenience while saying no. Conquering this molding requires re-evaluating no as a strength and taking care of oneself. Keep in mind, you can't pour from an unfilled cup. Dealing with yourself empowers you to all the more likely help others. The capacity to say no likewise improves your thinking abilities. Each time you assess a solicitation, you're leveling up your skill to observe the main thing. This clearness pursues it more straightforward to explore complex decisions and remain lined up with your needs. After some time, the act of saying no turns out to be natural, permitting you to move toward existence with more prominent concentration and deliberateness. At last, saying no is tied in with making a day-to-day existence that mirrors your qualities and desires. A statement you're not able to make do with interruptions or unremarkableness. By excelling at saying no, you free yourself to express yes to the potential open doors, connections, and encounters that really matter. Along these lines, no becomes a dismissal, yet a strong certification of your obligation to carrying on with a deliberate and satisfying life. Section 6. Versatility through discipline. Flexibility and discipline are cut out of the same cloth, working inseparably to enable you to confront difficulties and seek after your objectives with steadfast assurance. Flexibility is your capacity to recuperate from misfortunes, while discipline is the steady obligation to your standards and objectives. Together, they make an establishment for long-haul achievement and inward strength. In this section, we investigate how discipline can assemble strength and assist you with flourishing notwithstanding misfortune. Discipline starts with pursuing conscious decisions. It's the choice to adhere to your arrangement, in any event, when it's troublesome or awkward. Each time you completely finish a responsibility, you're fortifying your poise and building up your capacity to continue through to the end. This propensity for discipline sets you up for snapshots of challenge, as need might have arisen to endure life's hardships. Flexibility, then again, is tied in with returning. Life is eccentric, and mishaps are unavoidable. Flexibility enables you to remain back up in the wake of being wrecked. When matched with discipline, strength becomes proactive instead of receptive. You're enduring difficulties, however gaining from them and developing further. Discipline gives the construction expected to transform difficulties into open doors for development. One of the key ways discipline encourages flexibility is through consistency. At the point when you reliably appear for your objectives, you construct a feeling of confidence in yourself. This self-trust turns into a repository of solidarity that you can draw on during troublesome times. Realizing that you have a history of completely finishing your responsibilities supports your certainty and gives you the confirmation that you can deal with whatever comes your direction. Discipline additionally assists you with making propensities that help strength. Propensities like ordinary activity, good dieting, and care practice might appear to be little, however they construct areas of strength for physical and close-to-home prosperity. These propensities make a feeling of security and schedule, which can be particularly encouraging during times of vulnerability. At the point when life feels turbulent, your restrained propensities anchor you, giving a feeling of control and business as usual. Versatility through discipline is likewise about embracing uneasiness. Difficulties and mishaps frequently push us out of our usual ranges of familiarity, yet discipline helps us to deal with uneasiness directly. At the point when you resolve to teach rehearses, for example, getting up right on time to exercise or zeroing in on an extreme errand at work, you're preparing yourself to endure uneasiness in quest for a more prominent objective. This capacity to get through distress constructs flexibility, improving you prepared to deal with affliction. Another way discipline fabricates strength is by cultivating versatility. Discipline doesn't mean inflexibly adhering to an arrangement come what may. It implies being focused on your objectives while staying adaptable in your methodology. At the point when conditions change, restrained people can adjust without neglecting to focus on their targets. This flexibility is a sign of versatility, permitting you to explore change with effortlessness and assurance. Close-to-home guideline is another region where discipline and flexibility converge. Discipline rehearses like journaling, reflection, or even profound breathing assist you with dealing with your feelings really. At the point when you're focused about dealing with your profound prosperity, you're more averse to be overpowered by pressure or tension. This close-to-home dependability fortifies your versatility, empowering you to keep mentally collected and centered during testing times. Strength through discipline likewise includes keeping a drawn-out point of view. Discipline trains you to postpone delight and spotlight on the master plan. At the point when mishaps happen, it's not difficult to feel deterred, however a restrained mentality advises you that difficulties are impermanent and that your drawn-out objectives merit the work. This point of view assists you with remaining propelled and hopeful, even notwithstanding snags. Self-control encourages versatility by developing a development mentality. A development outlook is the conviction that your capacities can be created through exertion and learning. At the point when you're focused, you're bound to see moves as any open doors to develop as opposed to as inconceivable hindrances. This outlook powers versatility as it urges you to continue on, in any event, when progress feels slow. Strength is likewise about building connections that help your excursion, and discipline assumes a part here too. To sustain connections, whether by setting aside a few minutes for friends and family, conveying straightforwardly, or offering support when required. Solid connections give a security net during difficult stretches, supporting your strength and advising you that you're in good company. Discipline assists you with defining limits which are fundamental for strength. At the point when you're focused about expressing no to interruptions or superfluous responsibilities, you safeguard your energy and concentration. These limits permit you to focus on the main thing, decreasing pressure and forestalling burnout. Strength flourishes when you're clear about your cutoff points and committed to saving your prosperity. Another way discipline assembles strength is through responsibility. Considering yourself responsible for your activities reinforces your awareness of certain expectations and responsibility. Whether it's keeping tabs on your development toward an objective or considering regions for development, responsibility keeps you alert and aware and centered. This mindfulness improves your strength as it assists you with gaining from mishaps and change your methodology on a case-by-case basis. Strength through discipline likewise includes celebrating little triumphs. Discipline helps you to perceive and value gradual advancement in any event, when the ultimate objective feels far away. Praising these successes energizes you and helps you to remember your abilities. This uplifting feedback constructs the certainty and strength expected to continue to push forward. Using time effectively is another region where discipline adds to flexibility. By being focused about how you allot your time, you make space for both efficiency and rest. Adjusted using time effectively forestalls overpower and guarantees that you have the energy to handle difficulties. Versatility is a lot more straightforward to keep up with when you're not continually running on void. Discipline likewise reinforces strength by assisting you with remaining consistent with your qualities. At the point when you're clear about what makes the biggest difference to you, discipline keeps you lined up with those needs in any event, during troublesome times. This feeling of arrangement gives a profound wellspring of inspiration and motivation which are significant for flexibility. Realizing that you're living as per your qualities gives you the solidarity to endure. Flexibility is much of the time portrayed as the capacity to twist yet not break, and discipline supports this quality by training you to adjust without failing to focus on your objectives. At the point when life tests you, your trained propensities and mentality go about as an emotionally supportive network, permitting you to explore difficulties with certainty. The mix of flexibility and discipline makes a pattern of development where each challenge you defeat reinforces your purpose for the following one. At long last, strength through discipline is about self-conviction. Each time you practice discipline, whether by adhering to a daily schedule, conquering stalling, or pushing through uneasiness, you're demonstrating to yourself that you're fit for accomplishing your objectives. This self-conviction turns into a foundation of strength, engaging you to confront difficulties with boldness and assurance. In synopsis, flexibility through discipline is a strong structure for exploring life's difficulties and accomplishing your fantasies. By developing discipline in your day-to-day existence, you develop the psychological and close-to-home fortitude expected to return quickly from misfortunes and push ahead. This blend of flexibility and discipline guarantees that you're making do as well as flourishing, transforming each test into a chance for development. Part 7: Day-to-day practices for reinforcing discipline is definitely not an innate characteristic. It is developed through predictable day-to-day rehearsals. These practices assemble your psychological and profound muscles, empowering you to remain focused on your objectives in any event, when confronted with interruptions or difficulties. In this section, we investigate 20 everyday propensities and techniques you can take on to reinforce your discipline and open your maximum capacity. Begin your day with aim. Start every day with an unmistakable arrangement. Put in almost no time in the first part of the day recognizing your main concerns and laying out unambiguous objectives for the afternoon. This training keeps you centered and guarantees that your activities line up with your drawn-out goals. At the point when you start the day with expectation, you're less inclined to sit around or energy on interruptions. Get up early. Getting up early establishes a tranquil and centered climate for efficiency. The early hours of the day are frequently liberated from interruptions, permitting you to chip away at your objectives with clearness. This training establishes a trained vibe until the end of the day, exhibiting your obligation to capitalizing on your time. Practice appreciation. Taking a couple of seconds every day to consider what you're thankful for develops a positive outlook. Appreciation assists you with zeroing in on the present and value your advancement, which builds up your inspiration to remain trained. It moves your consideration away from what you need and toward what you've accomplished. Adhere to a morning schedule. An organized morning schedule makes consistency and strength. Whether it's working out, journaling, thinking, or arranging your day, a normal establishes the vibe for discipline. Over the long haul, these propensities become programmed, decreasing choice weakness and assisting you with beginning every day with reason. Put forth miniature objectives. Breaking bigger objectives into more modest, significant advances makes them more reasonable. Put forth miniature objectives for every day and spotlight on finishing them each in turn. These little wins gather speed and build up your discipline, making it simpler to handle greater difficulties. Limit interruptions. Distinguish the interruptions that most frequently wreck your concentration and do whatever it may take to limit them. Whether it's switching off warnings, defining limits with others, or making a messiness-free work area, decreasing interruptions assists you with remaining focused. Discipline flourishes in a climate that supports center. Make a plan for the day. Recording your undertakings and objectives for the day gives lucidity and construction. A plan for the day assists you with focusing on what's generally significant and guarantees that you stay coordinated. Verifying followed through with responsibilities provides you with a feeling of achievement, persuading you to continue onward. Practice self-reflection toward the finish of every day. Require a couple of moments to consider your activities and progress. Ask yourself what worked out positively, what could be improved, and the way that you can improve tomorrow. This propensity encourages mindfulness and assists you with making purposeful acclamations to fortify your discipline. Take part in day-to-day exercise. Active work supports your well-being as well as reinforces your psychological strength. Standard activity trains you to push through distress and remain steady, two characteristics that are fundamental for discipline. It likewise further develops concentration and energy, assisting you with remaining useful over the course of the day. Put down clear stopping points. Discipline requires expressing no to interruptions and time killers. Put down clear stopping points with others to safeguard your significant investment. This could mean restricting web-based entertainment use, declining pointless responsibilities, or making committed blocks of time for centered work. Utilize positive confirmations. Attestations are useful assets for supporting your confidence in your capacity to remain trained. Rehash positive proclamations like "I am focused on my objectives" or "I have the solidarity to keep on track." These confirmations revamp your mentality and keep you roused. Fuel your body with sustenance. What you eat influences your energy levels and concentration. Discipline stretches out to your dietary patterns, as sustaining your body with quality food varieties upholds your general efficiency. Get ready feasts ahead of time to stay away from rash decisions and keep up with predictable eating designs. Practice care assists you with remaining present and mindful of your activities. By rehearsing care, you can get yourself prior to falling into negative behavior patterns or interruptions. This mindfulness fortifies your capacity to go with deliberate decisions, building up your discipline. Embrace the 2-minute rule. On the off chance that an errand takes under 2 minutes, do it right away. This standard keeps little undertakings from stacking up and overpowering you. Making a fast move constructs a propensity for efficiency and decreases hesitation, which reinforces your general discipline. Keep tabs on your development. Keep a diary or utilize an application to keep tabs on your development toward your objectives. Perceiving how far you've come supports your responsibility and spurs you to continue onward. Progress following likewise assists you with recognizing examples and make essential acclamations to remain restrained. Observe little wins. Recognizing your accomplishments, regardless of how little, makes you feel quite a bit better and keeps you inspired. Celebrating progress supports your confidence in your capacity to remain trained and advises you that each step in the right direction matters. Make an evening schedule. A predictable evening time routine aids you wind down and get ready for the following day. Whether it's investigating your objectives, reflecting, or perusing, an organized night schedule advances relaxing rest and makes way for a useful tomorrow. Practice postponed satisfaction. Figure out how to oppose the enticement of prompt awards for long-haul benefits. For instance, decide to set aside cash as opposed to spending it incautiously, or center around concentrating as opposed to sitting in front of the television. This training trains your psyche to focus on what makes the biggest difference. Remain responsible. Offer your objectives with a confided-in companion, coach, or responsibility accomplice. Standard registrations assist you with remaining committed and offer help during snapshots of uncertainty. Knowing that another person is pulling for your prosperity builds up your discipline. Reaffirm your why. Discipline becomes simpler when you're profoundly associated with your motivation. Help yourself day to day to remember why your objectives matter and what you're pursuing. This feeling of direction fills your inspiration and fortifies your determination to remain restrained. Integrating these day-to-day rehearsals into your life might appear to be trying from the get-go, yet with consistency they become natural. Each training expands upon the others, making a strong starting point for discipline and strength. By focusing on these propensities, you'll reinforce your discipline as well as open your maximum capacity, making ready for long-haul achievement. Part 8. The prizes of self-control. Mythical person. Discipline is in many cases seen as a device for accomplishing objectives. However, it is considerably more than that. The awards of self-restraint stretch out a long ways past unmistakable achievements, contacting each part of your life, mental, profound, physical, and otherworldly. By developing self-control, you open an abundance of advantages that change your life and engage you to flourish. Accomplishing long-haul objectives. One of the most evident awards of self-restraint is the capacity to accomplish long-haul objectives. Discipline permits you to separate enormous goals into reasonable advances and remain predictable in seeking after them. This consistency gathers speed, transforming dreams into the real world. Expanded efficiency. With self-restraint, you oversee how you invest your significant investment. You center around the main thing, removing interruptions and delaying. This elevated center prompts expanded efficiency, empowering you to achieve more quicker than expected. More grounded self-assurance. Each time you finish a responsibility, you construct trust in yourself. This trust reinforces your self-assurance as you demonstrate to yourself that you are fit for accomplishing what you set off to do. Certainty turns into a characteristic result of discipline. Better thinking abilities. Self-control levels up your skill to go with insightful choices. Rather than acting incautiously, you gauge the advantages and disadvantages and pick activities lined up with your objectives and values. This ability assists you with exploring difficulties with lucidity and reason. Further developed profound guideline discipline helps you to answer feelings instead of respond indiscreetly. Whether it's overseeing disappointment, defeating dread, or keeping cool-headed under tension, self-restraint outfits you with profound control. This prompts better connections and better compromise. Improved actual well-being. Numerous parts of actual well-being, like normal activity, a reasonable eating routine, and sufficient rest, require discipline. By remaining steady with these propensities, you further develop your general prosperity, support your energy levels, and diminish the gamble of ongoing sicknesses. Monetary soundness. Monetary discipline, for example, planning, saving, and keeping away from pointless costs, prompts monetary security. By rehearsing limitation and focusing on long-haul monetary objectives, you create financial well-being and decrease worry about cash. More grounded connections. Self-control improves your capacity to show up reliably for individuals you care about. Whether it's staying faithful to your obligations, being available in discussions, or rehearsing persistence, discipline fortifies trust and extends associations. Flexibility. Despite difficulties, discipline trains you to persevere through hardships and mishaps. This strength turns into a strong resource, empowering you to return more grounded and keep pursuing your objectives regardless of impediments. Opportunity through design. Incidentally, discipline makes opportunity. By organizing your time and propensities, you wipe out disarray and make space for the main thing. Discipline permits you to partake in your life all the more completely in light of the fact that you've constructed a groundwork of steadiness and control. Further developed concentration and consideration. In a world brimming with interruptions, self-control assists you with keeping up with center. You train your brain to focus on what's significant, prompting further fixation and improved brings about both individual and expert pursuits. A more noteworthy feeling of direction. Discipline adjusts your activities to your drawn-out objectives and values. This arrangement provides your life a more noteworthy feeling of motivation and heading. You awaken every day realizing you're pursuing something significant. Self-awareness and advancement. The excursion of self-control pushes you to fill in manners you never imagined. As you conquer difficulties and push past impediments, you extend your abilities and find new qualities inside yourself. Regard from others. Individuals appreciate and regard the people who exhibit discipline. Your capacity to remain focused on your objectives motivates others and positions you as a solid and reliable person. Decreased pressure and tension. When you practice discipline, you make request in your life, which diminishes pressure. You never again feel overpowered by incomplete undertakings or turbulent timetables, as you have framework set up to really deal with your obligations. Improved innovativeness. Discipline doesn't smother imagination. It supports it. By focusing on standard inventive practices like composition, painting, or critical thinking, you make the circumstances for motivation to stream. Discipline guarantees that imagination turns into a reliable piece of your life. Better discretion. Discipline fortifies your capacity to oppose enticements and interruptions. This restraint engages you to go with decisions that serve your drawn-out objectives as opposed to surrendering to brief longings. A feeling of achievement. There could be no more prominent fulfillment than accomplishing something you've buckled down for. Discipline permits you to encounter this feeling of achievement routinely, inspiring you to keep taking a stab at significantly more prominent levels. Internal harmony and satisfaction. When you live with discipline, you kill laments about sat around or botched open doors. This makes a feeling of internal harmony, as you most likely are aware you're capitalizing on your true capacity and living in arrangement with your qualities. A tradition of progress at long last, self-control permits you to leave an enduring heritage. The propensities, standards, and achievements you develop through discipline can rouse others and make an expanding influence of positive change in your general surroundings. In each part of life, self-control opens remunerates that go a long ways past accomplishing objectives. It changes your mentality, propensities, and connections, making an existence of direction, satisfaction, and strength. By resolving to train, you put resources into yourself and establish the groundwork for enduring achievement and blissful. Much thanks to you for paying attention to the force of self-restraint, opening your maximum capacity. Self-control isn't simply an expertise. It's the underpinning of accomplishment, the extension between your objectives and accomplishments, and the key to transforming dreams into the real world. By picking discipline over interruption, you're picking an existence of direction and satisfaction. Keep in mind, each little move you make toward discipline carries you nearer to the individual you need to turn into. There's no need to focus on being great, it's tied in with being steady and committed. As we wrap up, take this idea with you. Discipline is picking between what you need now and what you need most. Your future is formed by your decisions today. Remain on track, remain restrained, and continue to open your true capacity. The most ideal rendition of you is pausing. Go get it going.